Hello, everybody. I haven't done one of these in a really long time, and I was hoping that I would never have to. Um, well, it sucks every time. There's no, yeah. Anyway, unfortunately, I think most of you know by now because I'm late to the party, sort of, at least in making the video. But James Yeager unfortunately passed from ALS. Hope you're not hearing about it from me first. I'm not doing it justice. He'd known that he'd had it for a while and made it to Ukraine and stuff, which is great. I think trained a bunch of people, probably saved a bunch of lives, and he came back and made it in time to spend some time with his family, and he passed. So I wanted to share kind of my stories. Everybody else did. I think it's a solid way, at least of like us YouTubers and people that primarily talk online. This is kind of how we, I think, show respect for each other. And if you're wondering why there's a bunch of unbanned James Yeager videos, this was, this was kind of how I knew him and how I interacted with him. Kind of at the very, very beginning was trying to get him unbanned, along with obviously hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of other people. And I'm not sure if he's the first that they went after when YouTube tried to just wholesale ban all the gun channels because they weren't advertiser friendly. But it's hard to believe this was back in 2017, which it says 4 years ago, but really is maybe closer to 5 years ago now. And he'd already been doing videos for quite a while, but things were really bad, and I didn't have any modern, any modern fighting, firearm tools. All I had was a shotgun, that my dad had handed down to me ages ago. And I was faced with the real possibility of like how, the mobs were starting to form, and it was clear things were going to get really bad. Civil unrest for days and days and days at a time without the National Guard, not even being deployed. And I remembered thinking like, okay, I have the shotgun, I have, a stairwell, and if I had, my wife and, my cats up here, how effectively could I stop people from, rushing up the stairs? If I had, a shotgun, like how would I do that? And I had no clue how to run a shotgun at all. Barely even understood how to load it, let alone how to unload it safely. What do you do if there's like light primer strikes, or if you don't shuck it all the way? Like these are all things you cannot and will not be able to intuitively teach yourself, let alone, you watch a video game and how they reload shotguns is usually not even real, because the people making the video games don't even know how to do the animations. They've never even held a shotgun in a lot of cases. They live in countries where guns aren't allowed. Yada, yada, yada. So I was doing YouTube searches for how to tactically run a shotgun, and there was only one video for it anywhere, which was James Yeager. And I already shared this story on my Unbanned James Yeager videos, but I'm going to share it again because it's important to me. He didn't know who I was. He's just making a video, right? But he wasn't afraid to fumble the shells or get it wrong or stumble his words. Like, you knew that he knew how to do it, and that he was just trying to explain to you how to do it. And that's exactly how I try to explain to other people how to do things. It's not perfect. I'm not super articulate. I'm just doing my best. And that's how he explained it to me. Well, I mean, he didn't know he was explaining it to me. I mean, he does now because he's looking down at me. But he just knew that there was people out there that were going to have this problem. There was going to be probably thousands and thousands of people out there with shotguns that weren't going to know. And it's weird, right? He always had this like crazy foresight. Even though he's in a different world, you know, complete world of his own, like he knew all this stuff, and like way before pretty much anything else. I think it was, you know, Black Scout was talking about this, Black Scout Survival. He was talking about how if you had even just a couple thousand, like if a gun channel had even a couple thousand viewers at the time, like you were massive. And that's absolutely true. Like, and I think YouTube thought in their infinite, you know, juggernaut Borg cube wisdom that they would be able to really, really easily squish the gun channels before they got huge. They did not. It had nothing to do with advertisers. They didn't want us to be able to defend ourselves. They wanted to keep the gun culture. Coleon Noir talked about this too. I didn't put him in my list of OGs, but Coleon Noir talked a lot about this too. Like, they want all the gun community constantly at each other's throats. They don't want us to begin a gun culture, to live in this, like, you know, 21st century, you know, gun samurai. You know, I was raised up heavily like on Shadowrun, which is obviously like fictional, but it was very much like, you know, gun samurai, just like, you know, computer hackers, like computer samurai, right? Like, you have a code of honor. This is our martial art. Like he always said, like, this was America's martial art. You know, fighting pistol, fighting rifle. And I learned through watching him do shotgun drills. And, you know, I did martial arts as a kid, just like most people did. It absolutely clicked to me. It made so much sense. And the movies hadn't portrayed it that way. Like, I can't remember if, like, Equilibrium was out yet. I think it had been, probably, but nobody had seen it. And I saw The Matrix, and, like, some John Woo movies, but I didn't really, like, put it together, because you've never seen a real person do it. You're always like, oh, whatever, that stuff doesn't work. That doesn't make any sense. And then you see James Yeager doing like fighting pistol, fighting shotgun, fighting rifle, and you're like, oh, okay. Oh, Sonny Pizakis, that's another one. Like, and I'm just throwing some names out here, but like Such, Mac Military Arms, Southern Prepper 1, IV-88, FPS Russia, Hickok 45, Demolition Ranch. But they all did really, really, really different things. They hadn't all made a lot of videos yet. There hadn't been a lot of crossover yet. Like, FPS Russia and IV-88 and Mac, I don't think they had done a lot of videos yet. Like, Such and Hickok, Such and Southern Prep 1, like, they all hadn't done a lot of videos yet. I didn't think they really got together until they started doing those like machine gun shoots every year. And then they all finally got together. Skinny Medic and so many others. A lot of them obviously fell off, and there was a lot of grifters and a lot of drama. But I think they had the foresight that they knew that they were going to have to get together. Yeah, there's going to be some shitbirds and some drama. But they all handled it really well, and the pieces of shit and the grifters always drop off. People are really good at realizing who the grifters are, and James Yeager was always the one that was out in front. And even though FPS Russia got completely screwed, and so did Wyatt from American Guns, got completely screwed. They tried to get Hickok banned several times. They tried to get James Yeager banned several times. Several of these YouTubers, like Warrior Poet, I think he came on later, but a lot of them have had home invasion issues, of both the just normal bad guys and the 3-letter alphabet kinds, some of them. And I think they've always been like trying to ice skate uphill, you know. But James Yeager, I always felt like he was the one. I mean, besides like FPS Russia and Wyatt both got screwed, like I said, but James Yeager took a really, really, really big brunt of that. But I think partially because he had his own business and because so many people stood behind him strong, really, really strong. He was able to persevere through like sheer will. And you know, he had the Hot Crazy Matrix, which everybody remembers, and you know, he had some really viral videos. And then he did his Pack His Bags video, which obviously just went crazy. And I can't remember if that was the video with Mookie, if there was a video with a different one, but he did a video with Mookie, and he said some things, or Mookie said some things, and I'm like, oh crap, this is going to do it. And it did. But even though we never got him unbanned, they allowed him to completely remake his channel, which is unheard of. He was making Liber TV at the time, which is now a great app. His family's keeping the channel going. But he was in movies, and he trained people how to gunfight in movies and stuff. Is it Daylight's End? One of my favorite movies. Where they have, you know, zompires running around. I love that movie. He also had a flashlight, the Tactician flashlight, which was, I think, the first tactical flashlight. The first legitimately, actually, properly designed tactical flashlight. It's so hard to believe that flashlights weren't always as good as they are now. It's stupid shit like that. They didn't have a flashlight that was just momentary on-off that you could operate tactically with. They either had loud clicks or stupid turn things and strobe bullshit that like, yes, could a strobe flashlight be useful in a tactical situation? Of course. Right? I think, you know, active self-protection's like talked about that. Of course it can. But when you're doing room sweeps with your AR, you just want momentary on-off, and that's it. Like, you're not running around with like strobe on your AR. That's anyway, blah blah blah. Hollow Sun is another one. He praised Hollow Sun, and now everybody I know pretty much runs Hollow Sun. ACSS reticles are awesome. Breakthrough Clean. He was a big proponent of Breakthrough Clean. I still use that to keep my rifles clean, my pistols and stuff. It's just, all of this, it existed before him, but I feel like nobody knew about it, and nobody had put it all together. Like, our responsibility to be ready for the fight, which sounds cliched, maybe, but at the time, most of us weren't ready to fight anything. And that's how I feel like it started. You know, he wasn't like reinforcing something that we all already knew. He was trying to wake people up. You know, he went to the Bundy Ranch. Whether you think that was divisive or not. It was before the standoff in Oregon, where Lavoy Finicum got ambushed, like it was before that. Like there was no book that explained how to do all this. He knew people that made gear, and he was already doing a tactical response school, so he was burning through gear like crazy. And when you put all those pieces together, it just makes sense. If gear survived his training courses, it was good. Or he figured out, how to improve it because he knew the people that made everything. Like, when you're not fighting wars, your gear just really isn't proven. And he was able to prove out a lot of gear. He was able to prove out a lot of tactics. And were there a lot of grifters around him? There were, but they didn't last for very long. And, I remember always being bummed that his episode of Doomsday Preppers never got aired. I thought that was dirty. But if it hadn't been for Doomsday Preppers, I would have never learned about, Southern Prepper 1. And then somewhere in there I learned about Such. And then even before that, I think FPS Russia and Hickok were maybe two of the only ones. I didn't like FPS Russia at the time because I didn't get the joke. And then I got the joke and I liked it. And by then it was almost too late. But looking for different shotgun shells, I learned about Demo Ranch, who started his whole channel on just shotgun stuff. And then IV88, FPS Russia, and Mac, like a lot of them were doing videos together, and it branched out from there. But it all started, at least in my opinion, at least how it started for me, was with James Yeager talking about this is what gun culture is. This is what it means. It means standing up to bullies. It means being ready for the fight. It means being hard to kill. It means being a badass good guy. All the things that we take for granted now, at least as far as I feel, it all came from him. And the big thing, the courage to actually speak out. And I have actually talked to him before in YouTube comments, which I know sounds dumb, but me and him did talk to each other. Like, it was rare, but we did. And he gave me the courage to speak out. We all thought that they were just going to black bag us and we were going to disappear in vans, right? This is before and during, number 44, where we thought we were all just going to get bagged. We thought for sure, like, any day we're just going to get bagged, and if we don't have an army behind us and know they're coming and stuff, we're all going to just disappear. And this wasn't the early days of the internet, but we were all so scared to talk to each other and so scared to speak up. But he had said something one day on one of his channels, one of his videos, where it's like, if we all speak up, then we're all on the list, and they can't possibly control, the whole list. And sure, they could have AIs do it and stuff, but we know now, as of several of the 3-letter agencies are trying to figure something out. There's so many of us on the lists now that it just doesn't matter. Like, the lists became irrelevant because everybody's on the list. They can't possibly handle it all. Even if they hired 1 million alphabet just to do it, it wouldn't matter. Even with all the AI and databases in the world, we would know. We would know because when they started knocking James Yeager off the air and several others, we knew, hey, they haven't posted a video in a couple days, or, oh, their video disappeared. We knew. We were aware because we were talking to each other Nobody nobody could disappear quietly into the night. And we also knew that if all of a sudden we did end up at a camp somewhere, we knew that we would all be able to recognize each other, you know, and we knew that they wouldn't be able to keep us in a camp for very long because we'd all been training on the same things and we all had the same mindset. And even though we'd never met and I'd never gone to tactical response, and even though there was, some drama with some staff that left, and some people took the curriculums and tried to run it on their own, and to disastrous results because they didn't know that what they were doing, and other people spun it in a different direction and did just fine. We were all always able to operate in the same AOs without throttling each other. I feel like, anyway, like they didn't feud. The ones that did feud and tried to start drama, they dropped off because it's not sustainable. Only moving forward and being successful in honing your trade attracts the people that you need to move forward. And that's what he did. And he showed everybody the way. And it's all stuff that we take for granted now. It's just weird. I think he created all of it. I think he knew he could somehow see everything in his head way earlier than everybody else. And he was in the right place at the right time with the right people and the right gear and the right mindset. And he put it all together and he put it all on the line. And he said it was way before anybody else would dare say the Second Amendment wasn't just for self-defense, it's for a hypothetical tyrannical government. He was the first person that I had ever heard say that. Everybody was way too scared, and he said it on like live television to actual interviewers, and I'm like, oh my gosh, dude, like how did you say that and just not get black bagged? Like, and he knew he was gonna sound crazy even though he wasn't crazy. But I think he knew by saying it, he was going to be waking people up and showing them that it was okay to walk this line. And I mean, they hit him with everything they could. He didn't even go to like this stupid grifter march on this bridge. Somebody else did it, it was a bad situation, whether people think it's right or wrong. And, he lost some of his rights for a while, but he got them back, even though he didn't even go. This is all shit that they try to do to us now. But they were doing it to him 5, 6 plus, I don't even know, years ago. And you could say, well, they wrote the book trying to take him out online, trying to take out his online presence. But it failed. It failed because we all stuck together and we wrote the framework of how to stay in contact with each other. Right? Like, through the communication skills and all the SOPs and stuff of checking in on everybody and being able to move platforms and constantly rebuild and readjust and find what works and find what doesn't work, and different ways of coping that are positive, and being able to have fun and laugh at yourself and make mistakes, doing the best you can and always trying to improve. Like, I don't know, I just feel like it all came from him. I ended up writing like an entire apocalypse fiction series, and it was all based on his mindset, really. And then a few other folks explaining the other side's mindset, building versus destroying. And a lot of those people ended up being grifters, unfortunately, but a lot of money and power went to a lot of people's heads, and it corrupted them really fast because they started thinking that they were entitled to everything. But James Yeager never did. Everyone talks about making their own platform and, I'm going to get off YouTube and make my own platform. He actually did it. Everyone said he couldn't, and he did. And it's still going. I mean, it's just like, I don't know. I feel like he wrote the book on all of it. And I feel like the gun culture owes him a great deal of respect, if you think about like the context of the time and the place, and how so many of us all know each other because of him and just a few other folks that all said, we're going to work together. We're not going to tear each other down. We're going to take what works and we're going to keep moving forward. And we're going to cast away what doesn't work. And we're going to remember our past, look to the future, and be really, really hard to kill, and always be ready for the fight. And the warrior mindset, and working out and being fit, and loving life. I don't know. Kind of not sure how I want to wrap this up, except to say, without James Yeager and like leading the way, I would have never, or I have no idea when I would have spoken out and started talking, had the courage to talk to him, and have the courage to talk to other YouTubers, and have the courage to really explain and build and expand upon the mindset. And through him, it gave me the courage to talk to other YouTubers, and then through there, starting to talk to my community. And then that way, they ended up all being able to stay on YouTube, which is great, because that's where everybody, goes to learn. But, if you get kicked off or banned off Twitter, like, who cares? You get kicked off or banned or have to get off Facebook, who cares? Like, we all learned to, talk without, speaking. Like, we knew when to be, we didn't need people to tell us when to be ready. We all got on the same wavelength, and we always just knew when we needed to be ready. And when it felt like it was time, people always ask, how do you know when it's time? It's like, we're all on the same wavelength. We'll know it's time. We don't need Facebook and Twitter and all these platforms to tell us. We don't need somebody to tell us when it's time anymore. Like, through him, we were able to just know. So we, there didn't need to be another pack your bags video. There only needed to be one. Because once he did a pack your bags video, everyone packed them and they never unpacked them, and we just knew. We would know when it was time. And he's going up to train the angels in the sky now. And we got to keep being ready for whenever it's time, and we'll know when, because we'll all know, and we don't need any social media to do it. And we're all united, I feel like, under a single mindset, and like warrior culture and warrior code of doing the right things for the right reasons. And I don't know. Obviously, I don't want to disappear because I make this video, but everybody has to have the courage to to be ready, because it could be anything. So, I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that I don't want to connect the dots on, obviously, but I feel like he was the start of it all, and I feel like he deserves a lot of respect. And so I hope this video comes off as respectful as possible. And just lots of honor and respect to James Yeager and his family. And he meant a lot to me. And I wish things had been different, to where I could have gone and meet him and trained with him and stuff. But I watched his videos just tons of times, and they helped me out just immensely. So anyway, I hope this all makes sense. Even if nobody watches this and it doesn't make any sense, it makes sense to me, and it feels like it's the right thing to do. So, anyway, yeah. Your responsibility to be ready for the fight never ends.